Hey everybody, welcome back to my carving shed. So today we are going to be carving fish scales. Usually, or more popularly, you're going to see them on gun stocks. They do a lot of that on gun stocks, carving them. But on a skull, either just by itself or surrounding a design, fish scales look supreme on a skull. So I'm going to show you exactly what burrs I use to do that. But before I do that, I'm going to show you kind of a little trick on how you can draw that design on the skull. Now you can either hand draw the scales onto the skull, or if you want to get a more uniform design, take something like a piece of plastic, something bendable but sturdy, get a hole punch that just happens to be the size that I use for the scales, and punch some holes into it on the edge, get the spacing that you want, and then you're able to use that to as a guide for drawing out those scales. And as you can see, you can make a bunch of different sizes of the fish scales using that ruler that you made, and they look pretty darn uniform. Now you're going to notice that the scales don't actually connect to each other. This is more just personal preference of mine. You can certainly connect them, so it looks something like this. Where one scale ends, the next begins. Again, this is just preference. I like the look of having that little space in between each scale. Now the skull I'm working with, you can see I have a design carved already in the center of the skull, and we're going to just add the fish scales around it. One thing to keep in mind is that you are going to want to add a border around the area that you're going to be putting the fish scales in. This kind of contains the fish scales so that they don't just kind of wander off of your design, and just makes it look a lot cleaner. And I'll be using a number 108 inverted cone carving burr to do that outline. Okay, so now that we have the outline carved in on there, we're gonna start sketching in the fish scales, and I'm gonna draw a baseline pretty much at the middle of the skull here, and that's going to allow me to work down and then up. And the reason for that is at the top of the outline here, I kind of want more of an organic feel. So if I were just to start there, it would look a little bit odd. You'll see it as I go along, but it'll make it look a lot better if I start in the middle and work up and then down. If you're using a pencil to sketch out your design, get you some hairspray and just coat it with a thin layer of the hairspray. That will prevent the sketching with the pencil from smudging as you carve. Okay, so now we're going to start outlining the scales. I'm using a number 105 carving burr. That's a Dremel carving burr. And we're just going to start from the top and work our way down. Okay, next step, you are going to add the divots to each of the scales that you've outlined. To do that, I'm going to be using a carbide ball burr, a little bit larger. That's going to give us a nice even divot in each of those scales. You can either use a carbide like I'm using, or a diamond dust burr works fine as well. Just get one that suits the size of your scales. All right, we've got the divots done. Now we're gonna move on to creating kind of more of a layered effect so that the scales look more scaly. This is what we've done so far. We've outlined the scales, and then we've cut down the middle with this divot in here. What we're gonna come back and do is carve down the area in between leading up to the divot that we carved out on each of these. We're gonna use a football shaped diamond dust burr that'll give us a nice smooth transition from the two. And what's going to happen is, this is what we have currently. This is the outline, and this is the divot that we've carved. And that's, if you were to look at it from level with the surface of the skull, that's what you're going to have. To create that leveled effect, we're cutting down the areas in between each of the scales. Then you get this up, kind of like a wave look, and that gives it more of the scale look that we're going for. Alrighty, the last step is to come back with an inverted cone burr. I'm using the number 108 from Dremel, and clean up the bottom edge of each of those scales. It's really gonna make it pop, make it a lot more crisp. And to do that, you're just gonna hold your rotary tool vertical to the surface. And there you have it, folks. We are done carving the scales. So just to review, step 1 is do the outline of the scales. Step 2 is come back and put kind of a dimple, a little valley in each of the scales to give them some depth. Step 3 is come back, carve in between each of those scales. Step 4, come back and clean up the bottom, under the lip of each of those scales to give it some definition, make it nice and crisp. So you can also do this with other scales. So today we did fish scales, which are more of a rounder shape, so if you can see that. You can also do dragon scales as well, using the same method and the same burrs. Snake scales, a little bit different. You're gonna use some different burrs. If you want me to do a video on those, I can. Just leave a comment below, but you can figure it out. Anyhow, thanks for watching. Please subscribe if you have not already. And if you want to see how the rest of the skull turns out, just stick around for the rest of the video. Hey everybody, so thanks for sticking around. Do let me know what you think about the skull in the comments below. I appreciate that. Did want to say thank you to a few people. Christian Dixon for leaving a 5-star review on my Facebook page. She said, "This is truly amazing when someone is not only good at what they do, but when they want to share the gift with others. Because of this page and videos, I feel like I can do this too, and have been gathering materials to get started." Sweet! That's awesome, Christian. I did want to say thank you as well to Rose, filmer of Bobcats, Christy Manis, and 21st Century Craftsman for leaving comments on the videos. So thanks guys for watching. And again, if you haven't subscribed, please do so. Alright guys, see you later.